Good.
Yay! So we are live and recording, and I'm Justine Serebrin, and this is Sarah Seidelmann, and I'm so excited to have you here today.
So pumped to be here. We made it through the technology. We
We
got
did,
here.
we did, we did. Had some trouble. Well, I'm
Yeah.
excited to hear all about your books, your deck of cards you made, and your journey switching from the medical industry world to
Yeah.
shamanism and teaching and spirituality and connecting to animal spirits. So
Yeah.
you're
Well,
fascinating.
honestly, it was art that helped me do all that. Yeah, I mean, about 15 years ago, I was practicing medicine. I was a pathologist, so I spent most of my days in a hospital, like staring into a microscope all day.
Wow.
If you've ever had a biopsy or something, we're the ones who look at the diagnose, try to figure out, is this malignant? Is it cancer? Is it infection? What's going on? And I
Mm-hmm.
was feeling really lost at sea. And so I hired a life coach because I was like, I don't feel engaged with this work anymore. And I thought, what's wrong with me? Like, I should just be like everybody else. Everybody else seems to be able to go along with the program and keep their job. And I'm just feeling anyway. And she encouraged me to do things that felt good, which seemed like a hilarious advice. I'm like, wait a minute, you mean to tell me I should be doing things that feel good? Like I've
Uh-huh.
been doing things that feel like crap for the last, 30 years to try to
Mm.
get where I am right now. Anyway, it seemed a bit I thought the advice was kind of funny, but I was like, okay, well, I'll give that a try because I don't know what else to do. And I started decoupaging things. And for I don't know, for people who are listening, if you're crafty kind of artsy people, you might know what that is. Kind of gluing images onto things. And all I wanted to glue onto things were images of animals. And it was really kind of weird. People would come over and I'd be like, would you like to decoupage something with me? When I wasn't at the hospital, I was like working on a whale, gluing it on to, like a tray or something. And my dining room at one point, I must have had like 20 trays that were in progress. And it was just kind of crazy. And I think it's how the animals kind of knew that it was a way they were going to get my attention without spooking me too hard. Like, I think if, some people have a psychotic break and the spirits come to them. And, in my case, they gently came in with the glue and the decoupage. um,
Love that.
and eventually I took a sabbatical from medicine, and because I realized, okay, I don't think this is what I'm supposed to be doing, but I don't know what else I'd be supposed to be doing. Like, what is my purpose kind of thing. And that summer I ended up spending a lot of time just walking on the trails, being out in the wilderness. And that's when just strange things started to happen. Like, one day I was out there and kind of sitting by this marsh, and sabbaticals sound fun, like, woo, I'm off from work. But actually, it was just kind of a living hell because I was just like so confused. And I mean, there were good moments. But anyway, I was sitting by this marsh just feeling so bad and like, what am I going to do? I'm a failure. Like, I don't like what I'm doing. This is bad. And these cattails were kind of just blowing back and forth, and I was watching them. And then I was just like, seems weird, but it feels like they're blowing for me. Like they felt like there was something going on between me and the cattails. And I was like, okay, either A, I'm, going crazy, which was not a far-fetched idea with my family history. We have a lot of, madness and mania and things like that. So that was scary. Or is like, wow, there's something else going on in the universe. And that idea kind of excited me. Although I didn't know what it meant. So then I just decided to, yeah, keep exploring. And eventually I left medicine. And because of those animals, I stumbled into this wonderful book. And if you want to break in and interrupt me, just like, please do, but I can go on for hours. But that summer, I just found this
Go for
book
it. Keep going.
about spirit animals, and I was like, what is this book talking about? This is like madness. Like, what is a spirit animal? I've never heard of this. I had never been introduced to the idea, but I was so desperate for some kind of wisdom that I started playing with some of the ideas in the book. And wow, like that's when like the whole world is kind of cracked open for me. And I started realizing, wow, like there's magic in the universe. There's a lot of help out there if you ask. And yeah, that's kind of the beginning of the journey anyway. And so I ended up writing a book, which eventually I self-published. And then eventually a few years later wrote a more complete version of that, which is sort of an encyclopedia of like, a lot of
Oh,
animals
yeah,
and what
yeah.
their message might possibly be for you. So kind of a playground for people who are just curious and want to know more.
Mm.
And then I wrote a memoir, and then and then I have a card deck, and I mean, I could go on about all the things.
So, what was the latest thing you did? Was it the deck?
So the latest thing I did, which came out, the book and the deck came out like this summer. So the book is called, and the deck too, How Good Are You Willing to Let It Get?
Love
And it's a
that.
daily feel good inspiration for helpers, healers, and creatives. And this came out of a 100-day project, which is why I'm such a fan of 100-day projects, for just like helping us to learn about ourselves and also to improve our skills as creatives. And this is the card deck, which goes with it. And the book is sort of like it's like one of those daily inspiration, like you sit with it, and it has a message from my spirit animal, Alice, then it has a little reflection from me, and then a daily prayer. Kind of addresses things like addiction, the struggles that we all have as creatives, like wondering, does it matter? Is what we're doing any good? um, and lots of, just whatever Alice wanted to share is what she shared. And then I kind of reflected on it. And then the deck of cards too is actually, again, from this 100-day project, and all the art is public domain art. And then using the images of, using the messages that Alice gave. I'm dropping them. But I always have loved like 19th century illustration and graphic design, and just started like making these messages. Anyway, so
So, how did
um
you do that so you self-published all of those?
so no, my first book, I actually so my first book I self-published, which was the original sort of animal spirit book, What the Walrus Knows, which we turned into an app. And then I wrote a book called Born to Freak, which is also self-published, which is kind of a love letter to creatives, artists, healer types, like those of us just don't fit in society and are a little weird.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I wrote my memoir, which is, I don't know where that just fell off, I think, is Swimming with Elephants, that I actually, after finishing my second self-published book, I said, you know what, I think I want to try to get a literary agent. And so I went through the usual hoops, and was fortunate to get representation, and we sold that book. And that year we sold also, my agent took this book, and Sounds True liked this but wanted a much more beefed up version, and so we sold that book too. So I wrote kind of a whole new version of that book. And so so I've done both traditional publishing and self-publishing. I did self-publish this most recent book and deck. There's a certain freedom in self-publishing, which is pretty awesome, because you can decide how you want it to look. You don't have to play by anybody else's rules or try to, in publishing, there always the concern is like, yeah, we got to sell this and we got to make sure it's, there's this guessing game of what do people want and trying to figure out how to give that to them. And it's wonderful
Mm-hmm.
because you have a team of people supporting you. The downside is that, what is the downside? Well, it takes a lot longer. Traditional publishing takes a lot of time because it goes through these, usually, especially with a big publishing house, they have these huge schedules and everything takes time. So there's good and bad to both. Um, yeah. And selling your own decks, is an interesting thing because, and this is why I didn't do one for a long time. Hey, Shara, welcome. Is
Hi.
because I was like, I know I'm going to have to handle this thing and sell it myself, because to put it on Amazon, you have to deal with all their stuff. And so I finally did it. And right now it's like the running joke, because I'm like, well, I just have 1,600 decks left to sell at home. They're sitting there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's sort of one of those things that's evergreen and that I will have for events and things for the future to come, and orders keep coming in. But it's definitely something like, if you have to want to enjoy selling and continually like interacting with people.
I
Yeah.
love that. Thanks for sharing that.
Hmm.
Could we go back a little bit into your creative process? And maybe let's just focus on, well, two things I'm most interested in is the deck in the book and then how you made the app. So if you want to pick one, I would love, well, let's do the book and the deck
In the deck.
and talk about, if you could, the what it was like when you're in that 100-day stretch. What are you, were you hand making anything, or were you doing this all in your computer? How did
So
you do this?
that idea kind of came to me when I was like in a retreat. It felt so good because the 100-day project felt really good because it tied into a couple things. And I think if you're going to do a 100-day project, definitely think about how it ties into your why and like what's important to you and what really lights you on fire. And for me, I was wanting to connect with my spirits more. And I'd been so busy that I'd kind of like run out of time to make or I hadn't been making it a priority. So I wanted to make it a priority. And so how I started that is I would just sit quietly for, 10 minutes listening to drumming, and going for a shamanic journey essentially to visit my spirit animal, Alice. And then I would write down what she either said or showed me in the experience. And then what I did was I paired the message with I had kind of curating and collecting these public domain-ish images that I had digitally collected on my phone. So everything was on my phone more or less. And then I would pair them with an image that felt good for that, and a little snippet and make it into a graphic design. So it was all digital design, which is kind of been a goal of mine because I'm not trained. I don't know Photoshop. I was doing this all off like a cheesy phone app. So no skills required.
Cool.
Um, however, yes, and how was the 100 days? So like the first 20, you're like, this is so fun. Oh my God, I had no idea how much wisdom was available to me. It's so great. And then like day 21, you're like, oh wow, like I don't know. That kind of sounds like the last message I got. Alice, are you like are you or is this gonna ruin my spiritual world? I mean, it was so many fears came up and by I remember about day 50 or something, I was gone for the weekend teaching at a retreat, and somebody messaged me while I was gone, and she was like, "Hey, I'm waiting for Alice's message today. Where is it? When are you going to send it?" And I was like, "Oh my God," like I took the weekend off. But at the same time, I was like, wow, like somebody actually cares that I'm sending this message out that, she really liked it. And so I was like, oh, then I realized I better, keep, be consistent with it, which I had been. I think I had a couple days where I had taken off, but at about day 70, you're like, whoa, like, I don't know. It's like the process of any large creative thing, very similar to a book where you're just like, you hit the middle of it and it's tough. And then you go into this like deep pit of despair and you're like, why did I say I would do this? This is crap. And then you just think everything's getting worse, like that your best ideas came at the beginning and you don't have any more left, or that, for me, it was these spiritual messages. So more kept coming, but I kept wondering, are they getting longer? So much self-doubt. Um, but by the end, what you realize or what I learned from the 100-day project is like how much creative, I mean, it just never ends. It's just on and there's more and there's more. And so that's when I was like, I'm going to turn this into 365 days. Now, I thought, what's the big deal? It's only like 3 times what I was doing. That was hard, it was a bigger project. I thought, well, we'll just expand this. But then you get into editing. And when we got into like the design of the deck, oh, there were so many days where I was like, oh my God, I have to drink like 64 glasses of coffee before I can even look at this. Cause they would send me stuff back and say, how are things looking? And I'd start seeing mistakes and errors and, and I'm like, how can there be so many mistakes? And we're just copying and pasting. They're like, what is going on? It was like Mercury in retrograde that went on for like 6 months. I kid you not. Um, so it's definitely like one of those things. It's just a learning. So you really have to be sure you want to do it. But if you do it, and you finish it, you'll feel really accomplished, and you'll also, whether you turn it into a book project or not, you'll have learned something. And what I have noticed with these 100-day projects is the artists that do them, like they keep growing, they make bodies of work, and they just keep sharing that and learning and doing more. And it's just a really, I think it's a really cool way to go about things. And I'm starting a new project where I am going to do some of the hands-on art. So I'm going to do some digital and some hands, like doing my own art. So I'm really excited for
Oh,
that.
cool. I can't wait to see what you do.
Yeah, there's something about doing things and getting your hands in the paint that I really love. And then I love how you can snap like a crop of a corner of something that you like. Often I'll make something and I don't like 60% of it, but one little frame of it, I'm like, oh, that's cool. And so I really love that about graphic design. You can snap things and blow it up. And now I'm like, I think I might have to learn Photoshop or some evil technology such as that.
It's
People
not
say it's
so
not that
bad.
bad.
It's not
I
that
know.
bad. I also have been playing around with Canva. Have you used that
Oh
before?
yeah, I've heard about that and I haven't, maybe that's my next step.
Yeah, do that first. I think it is so simple, it's intuitive, and it's a great, ease into Photoshop.
Okay.
It's it's
I'm
it's
writing that
awesome.
down.
Yeah, and free.
And free, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so have fun with that. Okay, I want to
Yeah.
also go into the app. How did that come about and how did you work on that?
Yeah, well, I love the idea that you could be like, walking around and get maybe have a weird encounter with an animal and be like, I wonder what it means. Like when I was first playing with these ideas, it was just like I wanted a resource like right now. And so I had the desire to make an app, and I had just published my first self-published book. I was not famous or anything like that. I was just like, I have this idea. And so I went on, it was like January, and it was like, well, how at the beginning of the year, you're like, I'm going to make an app in 20, whatever it was, 13. I can't remember what year it was. And I started looking at apps that were similar, like Oracle types of apps. And I found one that I really liked. And so I just contacted the developer and I was like, hey, I don't know if you'd be interested, but I'm wondering what it would cost to create an app. And he contacted me back and he said, this is the year I decided I was going to develop an app for another person. And he goes, why don't we just do it together? If you provide all the intellectual property, I'll just do all the coding and we'll just split the proceeds if it makes money. And I was like, that sounds great. So we've had it for, I think it's like been downloaded in like something like 52 countries or something amazing like that. It's not a huge money maker or anything like that, but it's something that it's out there and people love it and they share it. Like I've had so many people say, like, my grandchildren and I sit at night and we pick a beastie and we listen to the sound because it has all these animal sounds in it too, and images. And there's a shamanic journey. Well, I should show you. There's like a shamanic journey on there, and there's all kinds of stuff just to, because my idea was that I wanted to connect people to these, when we fall in love with the wild animals, then we also now I can't find it, of course. We protect what we love, and we also feel like we belong. And so I was really excited about that idea. I don't know if this, yeah, it shows it pretty well, but the design was done by a woman who's amazing. And it's just it's hard to see because it's so small, but like you can ask a question. Shall we ask a question and see what beastie we get?
Yeah, let's do that. And also, could
Okay,
you
so
could you say what the title of the app is again, please?
yes, What the Walrus Knows.
And it's
And
based on
it's
that book.
only on iTunes. It's based on the book, the first book. Um,
Very cool.
and yeah, and it has a divination feature and it has like a field guide. So there's like 155 beasties on there.
So
So if we all just set our
cool.
intention, we're all going to get a beastie message that's going to help us. So let's do
Perfect.
that. And then I'm going to hit the button.
Oh,
It's
how
showing all these little flying
cool.
beasties. Yeah. And oh, it's the secretary bird. Now that's not very typical. This is a bird that
Wow.
is in South Africa, and it's like got long legs, almost like a stork, but really strong legs. And what they do is they kill like poisonous snakes with one bam, like with their foot. They're pretty badass. Okay, I'm going to read you the message from Secretary
Wow.
Bird. There's 3 lines, so you just kind of see whatever issue you've got right now, if any of these apply. Tread courageously, go where others wouldn't dare, go again endlessly. Such a perfect message for creatives.
Wow. It's so perfect.
Um, Watch out, gaze at the prize softly but with intent. Grasp opportunity. So it's kind of like, know where what you're wanting, but kind of hold it lightly. And when opportunity comes, go for it. Heed the call, dare the heroic, fight the better battle, slay inner demons. So good.
So
Because I
good.
mean, that's mostly what we wrestle with, right? When we're
Yeah.
creating, we're like, oh, this sucks, or I don't know what I'm doing, or
Hmm.
yeah.
Oh yeah. We've doesn't Heath call them distraction gremlins? We've been calling them
Yes.
distraction monsters.
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh, they're just, and the more you create that, it seems like the more they come up, but you just get better at kind of saying, yes, yes, it's okay. We're making bad work today. It doesn't matter. It's all right. Or
Yeah.
not even, I'm trying to avoid even saying I'm making bad work today. I'm just making work. Because eventually, if you make enough work, some of it you'll start to like.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that.
Yeah.
Incredibly inspiring. I
Oh,
would
you're so
love,
welcome.
yeah, sorry I interrupted you.
No, it's okay.
um, would love to open it up to anyone who has questions at this point. Anyone got any questions burning inside of you you'd love to ask? You can go ahead and unmute yourselves if you'd like.
I have a question.
Great.
Yeah.
How did you discover I mean, obviously you talk about Alice like she's someone you know very intimately. What kind of animal is she, and how did you discover this connection?
Yes, so she happens to be an elephant. And how I discovered, well, the first animal that I met that I connected with, actually, when I was talking about my sabbatical and I was, I was learning about spirit animals and how they might help you. That's when I learned that, you might have one for your whole lifetime that was a major one. So what I ended up doing, because I was a little bit over intellectual and I didn't seem to be able to figure it out with my mind, because my mind was like filled with ideas, I took a shamanic journey. And if you want to do that, if you go to my website, followyourfeelgood.com, and if you subscribe, you'll get access to a shamanic journey, which is very similar to what I took. And I kind of talk you through it. And I think that's a good way to go, because sometimes we think we know who it is, and maybe that is who we meet, but um it's thought that the animal spirits are not chosen by us, like they choose us, we don't choose them. If that makes sense. The other thing that you can do is just ask yourself, like, has there been a wild animal that's been really important to you your whole life? Like when you were, especially when you were a little kid, like some people are like, oh my God, like I collected otters until I was 11 and it seemed weird. Or sometimes people have had like an extraordinary encounter with an animal, and that can be a clue. Um, but yeah, take your time with it and you will find out. And I just think that's one of the things, the first things I do when I meet a client is, encourage them to seek out who that is, which sounds so weird, but it's so helpful, because the animals can teach us how to, be ourselves and be authentic, and kind of what the best way for us to function in the world will be in a strange way. um and then they also kind of empower us. It's said that the spirit animals really share the love and compassion of the universe with us, so as we build a relationship with them, it becomes this like two-way street. Like we're heeding their advice, which they like to have influence in this world of this material world, but then they share with us this love and compassion, which we desperately need to be able to thrive in this reality, which is not easy. Yeah. So I hope that answers your
Awesome, thank
question.
you.
Yeah. I'd love to hear what everybody's working on, like whatever. I mean, you guys are working on your decks right now, or like, do you already have images and cards and stuff? Like, I would love to see an example of what you're doing. It'd be super cool.
Yeah, it's funny well, the card that came up today, because Corey's whole deck is surrounded around birds, which is interesting.
Ooh, very
Yeah.
cool.
Yes, I
Ooh.
don't have, well, these are my cards. So they're like in arch shape. I don't have
Yeah.
any of the finished ones with me right now, but these are the backgrounds, and I'm
Oh,
doing.
they're so beautiful.
Yeah,
Look
I'm
at those
doing.
colors. Oh my God.
Yes. Um,
Gorgeous.
so I started painting this one today, which is it's just a
Ooh.
white, I'm gonna paint over this, but they're lovebirds like embracing. So that's for a
Oh,
wings of support card. And
ooh,
then
beautiful.
thank you. And then this one is I started bird song.
Oh, I love it. So awesome. Those are beautiful.
Thank you. So it's been a really intense journey, and definitely seeing the benefits of doing an intense commitment like this, like you were saying with the 100-day project.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's no joke. It's like you'll come up against all your demons and like yeah, in so many ways. And just like and you have to fight with all the like, am I finished? Or that perfectionism if you've got that, which most of us do. So it's like you think you're finished and then you're like, oh, but these are all fucked up, and then you just like want to redo everything, or you want to redo everything but two cars, it's like, I mean, you could drive yourself crazy, at certain points.
Yeah, for sure. So just staying the course and really intensely working on more of the this light. That's funny. Yeah, just working more intensely on the imagery.
Ooh, they're so amazing.
Thank you.
And it's so funny. I've thought about doing like a whole animal spirit book on birds because there's so many amazing birds and they're all so terribly unique. And one of the best days I spent was I went birding with this guy who was just incredible. And he made it so fun to learn about the birds. And I just think, yeah, and it gets people connecting to like looking and noticing. And I think that's what's so special about oracle cards. It's like it wakes people up. They're like, okay, what am I noticing? And yeah, so cool.
They're like a really friendly entrance animal, spirit animal for people, I feel like. And
yes,
so they're just beautiful and inspiring and uplifting.
Agreed.
That's what I'm working on.
Very cool. Thank you, Corey.
Your cards are so cool. I love the arch doorway kind of gateway theme to them.
Thank you so much.
And I did the last iteration of the course with Justine, and I actually like finished my deck.
Oh,
So
I watched your interview
a Honeycomb Oracle deck. So some of them are animals, but there's these different pathways, and because of how they are, they read like really differently, like not linear. This is like my courage card. And
amazing.
Gratitude with the lotus.
Lovely.
This one is the story card, or lore or legend. Anansi the spider. This one is the spirit card.
Ooh, beautiful.
They all have like different directions, and when they fall in a reading, the cards determine how I read. Like it's not linear at all.
Yeah.
This one is radiance. There are a lot of quality cards, but they're all different parts of cycles. So this is the ancestor card.
Love it. Ooh, mysterious. That's how the ancestors
card
feel.
That's growth, but it's like about becoming and synchronicity.
Wow.
And this was my earth card because I have all the elements. And it's a diatomic structure of a plant. So
it almost looks like turtle too. It's amazing. Like, I think of turtle being like Mother Earth, and super
that's
cool.
really cool. I hadn't even thought about that, that's great. It's so cool what other people see. This is the crystal cave. So it's the whole
Ooh,
ethereal like section.
yeah.
So this is like all knowledge kind of thing. And there,
Wow.
some of them are abstract and some of them are not. They're, I don't know. This one is the pain card.
Gotta
So
have one of those.
and we all go through different cycles and phases, so there's pieces of challenge and things we need to move through and how we move through them. And oh, here's one. This one, like one of my favorite ones. This is astral space. But
Ooh.
when this card came through, it was very much, I saw like that sort of milkweed plant, as all the little pieces are sort of flying off. But it's the Linea Kea super cluster, and it's basically a lot of universes. So if you see there's like a little red dot right there, that's the Milky Way. And
Oh
this
my
is like the
goodness.
cosmos beyond that. And it's just that reminder that
Or
we're just like a blip, that anything that feels like it's overwhelming and insurmountable, that it's just this tiny little moment in the time-space continuum that's so much larger than our moment here on the planet,
so amazing. Oh, I love that. And I love that it's like when you read your cards, it's like such a personal thing because it's such a embodied practice. I think that's what, sometimes I've gone through phases where I've used other people's decks, and it's interesting. I haven't been using, though the few times that I have pulled cards for people using my own deck recently, it was like really good. But there was a part of me that's like, they're not really designed as what I want to say, like a well-rounded, like a tarot deck, which has all these different elements. And like Shara, yours seems like it does. It's more of a, kind of what is the message you need to hear. But it's
Right.
interesting my relationship to I just think I can't imagine that making a deck like that with your hands and the paint and the that it's just so embodied in you. So
There was,
amazing.
I have to say, it was one of my favorite things about the way Justine guided us through the process, was that she really encouraged us to make the actual cards. Where if I was doing this, I'm a professional artist, and if I had been embarking on it from a professional point, I would have done big paintings of each piece and worked them through and spent, a year or 2 years working on the process. But this was do this, channel from spirit, get it done. And all through the process of developing them, I had these actual cards. And even when I didn't have an image on the card, it was a space holder, because I had the whole structure sort of clear in my head. Even if I didn't know what the cards were going to look like, I knew what they represented. So she had us read with our cards every day. And at
Really
first it's like
cool.
I had 5 cards and all these blanks, and it was really weird to read. But the more that I read, the more that I understand all those layers, like that turtle that you just kind of acknowledged. I had that encoded, but it wasn't until you said it that I was like, oh yeah, of course. The Mother Earth, the turtle,
And that turtle's so interesting because like I thought that was just an Anishinaabe like local thing because we have like Turtle Island, which is this Madeline
right.
Island in Lake Superior, but that is actually a global thing. Like I've seen it now in many tribes. It's like I forget, was it Inuit or I don't know, it was like Aboriginal or somewhere where I just saw it, was like, wow, other people think of Turtle Island as, being Earth,
There,
interesting.
right. It goes through so many different cultures.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, and I've been reading so many different cards for so many years. I even have next to me a spirit animal oracle deck that I've been playing with lately. They all bring different things, but it definitely, reading cards that you're creating your own symbol world, and you're going to understand them, and you can't read them wrong. But
Right. You
you
lived
just
it.
learn more about it as it goes. So it's like, you know, there's always layers and interesting ways that they connect. And sometimes the cards will say, oh no, you need to read them this way or that way. Like, you know, I'll lay them out a certain way, but they won't let me read them that way. So like, my connection with that spirit stuff is so much stronger than it was when I started working with this project.
So cool.
Thank
Yeah, I was
you.
gonna say, I have a, I know we're on a time. I want to see Elise's cards as well, because she's got hers there. Elise Marie.
So when I started this process, I started with an angel deck, and the way that Justine has us do it, my guides were like, okay, you have the angel deck figured out, so here's a whole other deck. So I do light language, and so these are all coded with light language for your authentic journey.
Ooh,
So
beautiful colors.
and then I just started the backs. They have like just one word on them, and then they'll have handwritten like little messages on what I think the word means, but spirit speaks pretty
Beautiful.
loudly through these cards, so kind of anything that comes up to you. So
Oh, that's so awesome. Beautiful. Wow, I've never seen light language, but it looks really amazing.
It's beautiful.
yeah, it's
isn't
pretty
it?
crazy how light language unlocks so much for the individual person as you just
Wow.
allow yourself to kind of let it speak through you. People are always kind of like, what does it mean? I'm like, just look at it. Don't worry about it. It's like light language is like it's like the sound of water. Like it just communicates to you without having to know what it's saying to you. You just can feel the vibrations of what the words look like. And everyone's
I
light
love
language
that.
looks a little bit different. So thanks.
Super
Yeah,
beautiful.
I'm really enjoying it.
Well, I think this is amazing. I'm just like, I'm bowled over by what you guys are doing, and I think it's so cool. I was taking some intuitive painting lessons. I was just going to say, just this connection with spirit and painting from a woman named Aviva Gold. I don't know if you know her,
I haven't heard
but
of her.
anyway, yeah, she wrote this. Yes, she wrote that
Oh, it
wonderful
is
book.
her.
Yeah.
Oh, I have
And
heard of
I'd
her.
had her book for years, and I finally went in this year to her house in Arizona, and she's like in her 80s. This lady is amazing. And we painted, and it was this very spirit experience. Like we had painted, and like, I mean, the paintings got really big and crazy. Like I've never painted anything huge, but it was very much like a full body experience. And it was like what you guys are saying, like this experience of the painting was painting us, you know, like we were just like kind of like, I don't know what's happening, but I'm now it wants to do this and now it wants to do that. And I really learned a lot about like creativity through that. So I think it's awesome what you're doing, and they're also incredible. Wow.
Yeah, all of you. Thank you for sharing all of that. And I have one last question for you, actually.
Yeah.
In when you, is there a general timeline it takes to write and finish, like get from to write a book or to do the deck in the creative process? And then is there a timeline for the publishing process? Do you see them all as like, is that all one timeline for you, or do you see that as two different things?
It's kind of organic. I guess it's like with the book was a lot more work than the deck in my case, because the deck images were fairly simple, and it was more or less I was just using, you know, public domain art with my words. So that part wasn't as time consuming, but the book was very you know, that publishing aspect, all that stuff is pretty time consuming in terms of like, okay, you've got to get an editor and there's steps involved, and then once they've edited it, then you have to have it, I forget what the other the editing, copy editing, when they check every last P and Q on every single card or every single page of the book. And then you have to upload it, and then you have to get a cover design, and it all, for me, it's all kind of happening in different stages. Like I might start working on the cover with somebody, and usually you're working with many different people to do these things. In fact, when I was doing the digital upload of the book, finally, the last time I did it was so hard and so overwhelming, because there's just it's like you get into these places and some of it's not very user friendly. I hired a man from India. I mean, this guy was like in, I forget which city what he was in, but anyway, he would be like 3 a.m. for him. He'd be like, oh, I'll upload it. And then he'd have an issue. And for me, it was kind of organic, but I would say that the writing of the book and getting it ready to publish was probably like a 6-month process.
That
Writing
feels
of like,
pretty fast.
yeah, and I was working pretty hard on it and pretty steadily. Like this book, when I got the contract for this book, it's a 100,000 word book. I told them I would write it in 3 months. And wow, did I rue the day that I said I would do that. Because then suddenly I realized, oh my God, that means I had to write every day for like 4 or 5 hours, 5 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Wow.
For like, I forget what it was. I did it for 9 weeks because I want to make sure I had enough time. Like if we had corrections or problems that it wasn't going to be. And that year, like, I mean, my back got all out of whack, too much sitting. Like, as you know, as artists, how you can just get so addicted to sitting and painting. But if you don't go out for a walk, you're screwed. Or if you don't stretch and like move around every, like, or at least when your mind, like my body won't let me get away with it. So, I wouldn't do that to myself again. And that made me worried too, because I was like, oh no, what if and this book, I really worried because, I opened it to the page of cockroach, which is interesting. So each beastie has like 2-page spread and it's quite a bit of writing. I think it was like 1,200 words or something per animal, per creature. And in this, I thought I'm going to run out of ideas or the beasties aren't going to speak to me. And it was amazing. Like it never stopped. I went all the way from alligator to zebra and it's just more and more and more came. And I think that's the one thing I just want to tell people, like, don't worry ever about using up your best ideas, like more come. And when you share your work, it will inspire and help other people. Like I get so many messages of people like, oh, this book is awesome. Or I've had yoga teachers that are just designing like whale yoga and it's so awesome. Wow. There's a woman in my town who does like beastie yoga. She's done like jellyfish yoga. She's created all these classes and then uses like the book to read out of it. And I'm like,
wow. It's endless.
It's endless. Cool. Like we all inspire each other with our work, and it's just so cool. So
inspiring.
So inspiring. So thank you, Justine, for all you do to hold that space so people can create, because it is hard to do it alone. It's so nice to do it in a community. It's nice to do it with some support.
Yeah, it does help. Yeah.
It can be lonely out there.
It can. And your commitment, like hearing about your commitment and your just the devotion you have to your projects and how you create, I love that, the 100 days. It's tangible and it feels exciting to run that marathon,
It does. And
that.
It's on the one I'm working on now. On Sunday, I started kind of doing some dry runs just to refine it and say like, okay, do I like this or is it going to be a drag or what's this, and I actually ended up making like 25 images that I was so pumped. When you make something and then you keep going back to it and you're like, well, these are so cool. It was like that. And I'm like, okay, Sarah, like this is fun, but maybe you want to, who knows where it's going to go from there. But I learned a lot already and I haven't even started. I'm going to start November 1st. So yeah, if anybody else wants to join me, I would love to. I think it's fun to see what everybody else is doing. And it's fun to watch people kind of, hey, it's Saturday and I'm tired and I have the flu, but I eked out this, kind of on a shred of a napkin from my bed or a dirty Kleenex. I did my day, even though like I was really tired, but I sketched something here for you,
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's not easy when we have other commitments and busy lives and COVID, the election and whatever else trying to distract us.
Exactly. There's lots of monsters out there.
Yes,
keep your blinders on.
But It is so good to give ourselves that discipline and just go to the page every day, even if it's only
Yeah.
for 5 minutes. Just
Mhm.
it's a commitment to self that's so powerful and empowering.
Yeah. And to
Mm.
spirit, like I get, that's one thing that really motivates me. Like if I'm kind of doing it for, I don't want to sound God or the universe, like, you know, out of service, like, thank you for all this beauty that you've given me in my world and all the blessings. And this is how I like try to give back by showing up to reflect something back that's trying to hit at what I've been receiving, which, I mean, it's hard to ever get there, but that
Mhm.
feels like, yeah, we have a duty. If we physically can do things, we have a duty to create something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I can't thank you enough, Sarah. You
Oh,
have
thanks for having me.
totally injected us with so much inspiration and energy and creative guidance. So thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for your
Oh,
time and energy today.
well, thank you, Justine, for having me. And it was so awesome, Corey and Sharon, Elise Marie, to see your projects.
Yeah,
So
thank you all
amazing,
for
your
sharing
decks.
that. What you're
Yeah,
working on.
they're amazing. It excites me. And I love the
Mhm.
idea of little cards, these tangible, smaller things that are more manageable than these giant canvases, which can be intimidating.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And fun to be able to work with something, you know, little. It's like a bite-sized way to complete something and
I
make
love
something
it.
scary into something simple and little and doable.
Yeah.
Did I mention that I did that deck in 6 weeks? That was our
Whoa.
course. It was 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And when it started, we
Amazing.
all were like, oh, we can't possibly do this. And we all did. You know,
Wow.
everybody had things, oh, I want to add this or do something different. But the whole, you know, I'm still editing the book and getting it like digital and whatnot, but it's like all there. And the art,
Yeah.
I actually got my whole deck done in that 6 weeks
Isn't that
because
amazing?
it was a small, because they were small. If I was doing
Yeah.
paintings, like I might have gotten 2 done, maybe. I
Mhm.
don't know.
And
Not
that
everybody
group
works as fast
vibe.
as Justine. She's so prolific.
Oh, thank
Well, that's awesome.
Well,
We're
thank
capable
you.
of so much.
Well, you're such an inspiration.
Oh,
I
thank
hope to be
you.
able to write as many books and do an app too. It's so inspiring. So thank you.
Awesome. You
Yeah.
will. You will.
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
guys.
Have a wonderful
Peace.
rest of your day.
Thank you. You
And,
too.
and everyone go to followyourfeelgood.com/subscribe and go do her guided shamanic journey.
Yeah. Go
Check
find
that
your
out.
beastie.
Yeah. And your app too. Go find that. Okay. Thank you again. Love you
Thank
all.
you.
And I will see you all soon. Talk to you later, Sarah. Thank you.
Okay, bye everyone.
Bye.